my psychosis journey. From sane to insane to sane again. From losing my mind completely to figuring my way out and back to sanity. The living proof and the journey of the transformation of psychosis when you come out of the other side from psychosis, what it births. The fluctuating journey of sanity that all humans are on. This video is about my psychosis journey, the story behind the build-up to my psychosis, the events that led to psychosis, in order for me to help you and to share how I dealt with my other mental health disorders and with my psychosis. I first needed to share how my life events led up to psychosis. I shared myself very openly with you so you can understand the person behind the psychosis, that overcame psychosis, that transformed psychosis into an amazing life that I'm living right now. A life that I've created for myself. Instead of letting life create me, I started creating. That is also another video on the positive sides of psychosis, because everything has positives. Part of me really wanted to hold back from doing this for so many reasons, but there's another part that's pushing me hard to share my part and my take, my experience with psychosis. The part of me that was holding back to share this wanted to wait a little bit longer, but the urge and the fire of the transformation that I'm living right now, the psychosis transformation, the other side of psychosis, when it's transformed and alchemized, the journey, the power and the ability, the learning and the knowledge, the hardship of my psychosis experience is urging to burst out, to help you, to guide you, to speak up for you. Psychosis is the pinnacle of the combination of all the mental health disorders that humans misunderstand and mistreat within them. It can eventually build up and lead into psychosis. And this is exactly what happened with me. And I have managed to sit and live with psychosis, deal with psychosis, manage psychosis, overcome psychosis, understand and fully heal psychosis without the use of any medication, not even a single pill of medication, solely through understanding what it is, dealing with it, understanding its triggers and avoiding them, listening to myself, yes, listening to myself in psychosis, which is psychotic, but the only way out is in. And I'm here today to share very authentically myself, to share my journey and what I've been through. My previous mental health journey with all the disorders that led up to my psychosis eventually turned me into a mental health professional. That's on the educational professional side. So I can help you with my qualifications and certifications. But on a soul level, on a human level, I'm a living proof. I'm not an experience, I am the experience of understanding and sitting with mental, emotional, and psychological health disorders through life experiences, to study them, how to manage and deal with them, how to overcome them in other ways that are not medication. And my journey was without medication. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And I am gonna preach for myself and for the people that believe that you can heal through the brain and the rewiring and the understanding. So yes, I will share the truth. My journey had no pharmaceutical medication. To start off, there is so much to cover, to the extent that I'm in the process of writing a book, not just on my forever evolving transformation journey and all the phases, but about how to manage and deal with mental and emotional struggles. But to start this off, as I am being your example in this, I will tell you a little bit more, but not so much in depth, about the build-up that led to my psychosis. Remember, this is just a little story, but not the whole journey, as I'm not able to cover it in one recording session. So just a quick little backstory so you understand what led up to my psychosis. I had a great upbringing with both of my parents. Around the age of 9, I had father separation. I was separated from my dad, moved countries with my mom and my 2 younger brothers. My mom became a single mom. My dad is in a different country. And as the older sister, at a very young age, I felt the responsibility to fulfill the role of the father figure of my family with my single mom and my 2 younger brothers. Growing up in Manchester, my first language was not English. I was heavily bullied on all aspects you can ever imagine. When I started life in Manchester at the age of 9, it wasn't just the cultural shock for me. It was all happening at the same time at a very young age. The father separation, the friends separation. I just left my primary school, the friends that I've grown up with, the country that I lived in my whole life, the language I speak, my hobbies. And something in me as a child just stepped up to fulfill a role that wasn't even mine. And anything personal I'm sharing about my life has nothing to do with anyone in my life but me, because I've always been my own person. I've always been very stubborn. I've always been the child that cannot be told what to do, and still am, by the way. So I always act upon what I want to do. And at that age, I wanted to be the dad of the family. So I was. That really kick-started my existential crisis at a very young age. I wasn't even a teenager and I was questioning existence. I was questioning God. I was questioning life. I was questioning being a human. And I was surely 100% questioning whether I want to be alive or not, from as early as the age of 9 or 10. Growing up, throughout my teenage years, I've suffered from extreme, deep depression. It was such a deep depressive episode and chapter of my life that I've lived my whole life in depression more than I've lived without depression. I've only been out of depression for around 4 years, but I lived around 12 years with depression. So throughout growing up, I actually grew up with depression. Me and depression were besties. It's like my best ally growing up. Jokes aside, on a serious note, that made me understand depression so much. And it helped me now to help my clients and the people that I work with on how to actually understand their feelings and their emotions. As this whole journey for me started with questioning existence at the age of 9, 10 years later, mid-deep my depressive episode, I really didn't want to be here anymore. And I lived for so many years in my depression, questioning on how, what, and when is the way out. So eventually, I did have a few attempts, with one of them succeeding. Yes, I know I'm still here, but I've had a near-death experience due to one of the attempts. And if you've encountered a near-death experience or know anyone that has, or have any experience or knowledge or the capacity to even understand what it is, you will know that if someone attempts and encounters a near-death experience, then the attempt actually happened. Because that whole experience on the other side that I went through, on a consciousness level, on an energetic level, on a soul level, that's not human anymore. Out of body experience, when you're just in the corner of the room and you're looking at yourself, laying there, that conversation that you have with consciousness, with the divine, with God, with awareness, with source, with whoever and whatever that figure, that higher power, that energy is to you, that is the point of no return. But in certain cases, there is a return. And that is what a near-death experience is. So I came back from a near-death experience after living for 10 years with deep depressive episode that eventually led up to a few attempts, encountered a near-death experience, came back, leading up to my near-death experience. Every single aspect in me that was dealing with my depression, that was dealing with my anxiety, that was dealing with my overthinking, I have always been an extreme, excessive overthinker. I've lived 12 years wanting to die. Not just waiting to die, but looking forward to die. And I was doing absolutely everything I could possibly can not to deal, not to understand, to completely dismiss, to overwork myself in 3 full-time jobs at a time, in 2 different educational routes and qualifications at a time, to keep myself busy until I die, because I'm waiting to die. And I've been living to die. So leading up to my attempt, when it actually happened, and I've encountered what I've been looking for and craving and calling in and excited for the way out, when it happened and I got sent back, I was so pissed off. No, honestly, but whatever. That's a different story, but that's not what I'm trying to say right now. When it happened... No, but can you imagine, like, living a life wanting to die, and then when you get to the point of it, you actually get sent back, and you're like, bro, come on, man. Like everything in me has been preparing me for that point, and then when it happens, like, I'm just like, okay, cool. We're here. They said I've got to put it out there regardless. They said I've got more to do. And they've said I've just started. I promise you this was my experience. And I promise you that's how I was slapped back. And when I say I was slapped back, I was literally slapped back. Because when it happens, you literally snap. You see a light, like so bright, flashing, so bright. And then a lot happens. And by the way, what's happening right now in this studio is about my psychosis journey, not about my near-death experience, but I have to get a little bit more into my near-death experience with you because it was the beacon that led into my psychosis, that was birthed from my mental health journey and from my deep depression. But I will make a separate video about my near-death experience. This video is not about what happens on the other side. Oh damn, I've seen it all. So living all that life, wanting not to be here, when I've had that near-death experience and when I was sent back, the first thing ever, the first awareness and consciousness that I've opened my eyes to, the first breath that I've taken, said the words, I want to live now. Every single cell in my body and every single aspect in me and within me, around me and in my mind, I woke up to this awareness that I've been wanting to die my whole life and living a life waiting for that day. Now, I actually want to start living. I've never experienced a life. So I want to start living and experience being alive. That lasted 6 weeks. I was very optimistic for 6 weeks trying to live, right? So at that age, what was I, 20, 21? So at that age, wanting to live after not living, after burning myself out, working 3 jobs at a time, not even having time to socialize or have friends, studying 2 different qualifications at the same time, keeping myself extremely busy, having 0 social life just to kind of not deal with my depression and to burn myself out to death until I died and then came back and realized I need to start living. So now I want to start living. And at that age, you know, like 20, I want to start living. I'm single, just got out of an abusive relationship as well. So what do I start doing? Trying to become more social. Again, this video is not about this story. This video is about my psychosis, but I have to mention the story, just a snapshot of it, just a little bit of it. And I promise you I will make a separate video about this story because I've been silent for so long about this. And I'm here to speak up for the women that have also been silenced and silent about any sexual abuse, any sexual rape, any sexual assaults. But anyways, 6 weeks after me trying to live my life and stay alive and experience what life is after my near-death experience, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but I was invited out by someone that I trusted. And that person did not end up going to that function. When I got to the function, we were a group of people and we were all meeting at a well-known pub to watch a football match. I don't know anyone there apart from the person that invited me, that I trusted so deeply. But when I got there, I didn't know that this person was not there yet. And as soon as I got there, another person that I've only ever met once greets me with a drink. And the first thing that I do is I sip the drink. Within the first sip, around 30 seconds later, I take another sip. 30 seconds from that second sip, so within a minute, I knew I was fucked. I knew there was something in that drink. I felt it and I sensed it straight away. My body picked it up, my brain picked it up. I don't know. This has never happened to me before that day, but I felt paralyzed. I felt fully paralyzed. I couldn't move my limbs. I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't move my feet, my arms, my legs. I couldn't feel anything. The only thing that was extremely wide open and awake was my brain. My brain was very awake and my eyes were very open. And I was just standing there in a public pub. Standing. At this point, it's not a group of people anymore. It's 3 men and I've only met one of them. Once. Very briefly, by the way. So I'm just there frozen. That's the word. I was legitimately frozen. Literally frozen. They had to move me around. I can stand up, but they had to move me around. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. Someone had to move me. This whole experience with the spiked drink, if I'm not wrong, but because my drink was spiked, I perhaps was not able to recall timings. But if I'm not wrong, there was absolutely no way that we were in the pub more than 5 minutes. Because within 5 minutes, the 3 guys, they literally grab me and they put me in a car and they take me to an apartment. Remember, I'm frozen, I'm not able to move. But my awareness and my consciousness was at its peak. I was so aware of what was going on. I was so aware. And when we got to the apartment, they've put me on the sofa and the 3 of them started arguing. It got a bit tense between them because they weren't sure if I was awake or asleep because my eyes were wide open, right? What a psycho. My eyes were wide open. They were terrified. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't blink. But they weren't sure if I had my consciousness and I was aware of what was going on or my eyes are just open, but I'm like drugged, you know? So they're standing there in front of me trying to understand if I've got my awareness or not because they're waiting on me to lose my consciousness fully so they can do what they want to do. That lasted a long time. I'm pretty sure that lasted over 45 minutes. Because remember when I told you we went to the pub to watch a football match? When we got to that apartment, they had the same football match on TV. So me, with the brains, I looked at the timer of the football match because I wanted to keep track of something. So now I'm just on the sofa, untouched, because they're waiting for me to lose my consciousness, or they're not sure if I've got my consciousness and awareness or not. Again, I'm not going to share full details because I want to do a separate video about this. But I have to include this in my psychosis journey because it eventually led up to my psychosis. And remember, I've got my full awareness, like I can hear them fully. It was such a struggle and a battle internally within my mind and my brain to keep myself awake, to keep myself aware, to keep myself conscious, to keep my eyes open. All I was doing was giving internal commands to my brain not to shut off. I was forcing myself, which now I call command therapy, by the way, from my findings. Thank you. I was forcing myself, commanding myself on the spot to keep my mind and my brain awake and not to shut off. And it was extremely difficult. I had a drug in my system that was doing exactly the opposite, trying to shut me off completely. So that battle was extremely difficult. And as I'm going through this battle, I have 3 men that are literally standing in front of me whilst I'm on the sofa debating whether I'm awake and how long they have to wait before they do what they want to do. And it got so intense between them that one of them said to the other, "We always do this. This has never happened. She still looks fully awake. Why is she not getting knocked out?" And the other guy said, "All the women that we've ever brought here, they're always fully asleep. Why is she not the same?" Remember, I'm forcing my brain to stay awake. I'm forcing my brain to actually pick up on what they're saying. I'm forcing my brain to keep track of the clock, the time of the football match. And then one of the guys goes, "She's gone. She's not here. It's just her eyes that are open. She doesn't know what we're doing." As he was saying this, he started to approach me. And when he started to approach me, one of the guys got fully undressed. So now my drugged brain and my paralyzed body needs to do something. Because I, of course, am awake. I can 100% see and understand what they're doing. And that was the living proof for me that you can tame your own brain and tell your mind what to do. So remember, word for word, he said, "She doesn't know what we're doing. She's fully gone. It's just her eyes that are open." And as he started to approach me, every single muscle and universal force and power and everything in me and within me forced my brain to form a sentence so I can speak it. And I literally spoke, and the words came out very clear, very forceful, very powerful. They were so sharp. I finally gathered one sentence. And it was, "I know what you are doing." And I kept repeating it very firmly, very boldly. I kept saying, "I know what you are doing. I know what you are doing." They freaked out. It was the funniest show to watch ever. So yes, I left untouched, but I left damaged. And as I was repeating and saying, "I know what you're doing, I know what you're doing, I know what you're doing," I started getting my power back. And somehow, somewhat, I was able to actually stand up. So I started to commanding my brain, "Okay, you've spoke now you can stand up. Now you can move. Now you can get to the door. Now you can go down the stairs. Now you can order a taxi. Now you can get in the taxi." I got home. I was drugged for 3 days straight, stayed awake for 3 days straight. And remember, I've encountered this 6 weeks after my near-death experience, after I've decided to start living. And when I decided to start living and experience what life is about, I encountered this experience. That took me straight back into the deepest, darkest depression of my entire existence that I didn't even know it was possible. Because my depression previously, from how deep and dark it was, it led me to a near-death experience. So I could have never imagined that there was something darker in depression than what I've already encountered after coming back from a near-death experience. So that event that happened with my spiked drink, which I'm grateful for now, I'm grateful for everything that has ever happened to me. It sent me on the deepest depressive episode that lasted 6 months. And within 6 months, it bursts into a psychotic episode. I literally slept. I woke up to psychosis after 6 months in a deep depressive episode. This story that I shared with you was little snapshots of who I was and the events and the circumstances that led up to my psychosis. In the next episode, I will be explaining how I managed to deal with my psychosis, understand it, sit with it, live with it, and overcome it without medication. In my next video, I will share how I dealt with psychosis, hoping to spread this knowledge and this wisdom and this healing for anyone that is dealing with a loved one that's going through psychosis right now, or if you feel you might be on the edge, or if you can relate to any of the mental and emotional difficulties that I've encountered in my psychotic journey. Thank you for watching, and come back next week to watch my story on how I self-healed my psychosis.